Hello, my name is Gregor, and I want to talk with ChatGPT about the future through the eyes of my 12-year-old nephew. Okay, ChatGPT. I recently spoke with my nephew, a 12-year-old teenager. Here's what he told me about his vision of the world and the future. AI will engulf all spheres, especially those that require planning, organizing, and creativity. That is, he doesn't consider management or engineering position for himself. Creative professions have no future. They're only a hobby or a very expensive service that will be available to the elite, but you have to be incredibly cool. AI will start creating new things in any industries, and people will be satisfied with that if properly promoted. No one will bother looking for the unique and unusual. Everyone will be too lazy. Schools will be automated. Only a few people need teachers anymore. Only if you study something beyond their curriculum. Why does the mainstream need teachers? They will simply be monitors and programs with tests, and teachers will remain in closed elite schools. Asian expansion across the world awaits us soon. No one will want to have children. Only Asians will continue to do so. Everyone else will find life too difficult to have children. But Asians have had a difficult life since childhood. They're used to it. People will consume AI generated content indistinguishable from the reality. There are already hundreds of games on platforms created entirely by AI. They even have a special designation, but most people don't care. They are happy with the variety. Society will essentially disappear. No one will need real communication. There will be so much content and so many different things that there simply won't be time or need. There will be loners who don't consume content. Those who live in a village, for example in Siberia without internet, will be fine. If he had spare money, he'd advise buying land. Land isn't growing anymore. 30 to 50 years left until complete degradation and the disappearance of families. There will be boxes with tiny boxes for one person inside built by AI. No one will need anyone. The internet will soon be a subscription. People will pay for the internet by subscription. For example, 300 websites a year will cost so much, but the full access is much more. When I asked how he sees himself in such a world, he replied that he has two paths: to reach the top and manage it all, or to work with his hands, for example, as an electrician. It seems that Skynet from the movie Terminator is no longer a fantasy. AI can already think outside the box, not just follow commands. How do you like this view of the world? Do you agree or disagree? Explain in more detail what you agree with and what you disagree with.
This is a surprisingly coherent worldview for a 12-year-old. What stands out is not whether every prediction is correct, but that he's already thinking in systems. Technology, demography, economics, psychology, and social behavior are all connected in his mind. Many adults don't think that way. At the same time, his vision is heavily weighted toward technological determinism, the idea that technology alone inevitably decides human destiny. History shows reality is more complicated. Humans adapt, resist, regulate, rebel, reinvent culture, and create new needs every time technology changes society. So I'd say some of his observations are genuinely insightful, some are exaggerated, and some misunderstand how humans actually behave over long periods. Here's where I agree and disagree. 1. AI will engulf all spheres. Mostly agree, but not completely. AI absolutely will automate huge parts of planning, logistics, analysis, administration, coding, design drafts, customer support, education systems, media production. This is already happening, but there's a major misconception. Automation does not eliminate all human value. It changes where human value exists. For example, calculators didn't eliminate mathematicians. Photography didn't eliminate painting. The internet didn't eliminate books. Streaming didn't eliminate concerts. Instead, average work becomes automated, high-level human work becomes more valuable. That's likely what will happen with AI. The future probably belongs less to people who execute instructions and more to people who define goals, make judgments, build trust, coordinate humans, take responsibility, operate in uncertainty. Ironically, management may become more important, not less, but different. 2. Creative professions have no future. Strongly disagree. This prediction misunderstands why humans value creativity. People don't only consume art because it exists. They consume it because it expresses human experience, it creates identity, it signals status, it creates emotional connection. AI can generate infinite music, stories, and images, but abundance often increases the value of authenticity. A handmade guitar costs more than a factory one. A live concert matters more than Spotify. People still pay fortunes for original paintings despite perfect digital copies existing. What will disappear is mass-produced mediocre creative work. The middle layer may collapse. Generic illustrations, average marketing copy, formulaic content, stock music, repetitive video editing. But distinctive creators may become even more valuable, especially on platforms like YouTube. People follow personalities, not only output. This is important for you as a future creator. AI lowers the barrier to producing content, but personality, worldview, storytelling, taste, and trust become more important. 3. Schools will be automated. Partly agree this is one of his stronger predictions. Large parts of mainstream education are inefficient and highly automatable. Standardized testing, memorization, repetitive exercises, lectures, grading. AI tutors may genuinely outperform average schools for many students. But education is not only information transfer. Schools also provide socialization, discipline, conflict resolution, mentorship, emotional development, group identity. Children are not CPUs downloading information. The likely future, hybrid education, fewer traditional lectures, more AI tutoring, teachers becoming mentors, coaches. Elite education probably will become more human-centered, not less. 4. Asian expansion across the world. Partly agree, but oversimplified. He's noticing a real demographic trend. Many developed societies have falling birth rates. This affects Europe, Japan, South Korea, China, parts of North America. But his Asians will replace everyone conclusion is too simplistic. First, Asia itself is facing a demographic crisis. Countries like Japan, South Korea, China have extremely low fertility rates. Second, demographics are influenced by economics and culture, not biology. Third, migration, automation, and changing family structures complicate everything. He correctly senses that societies with declining birth rates face instability. That's real, but demographic futures are rarely linear. 5. People will consume AI-generated content indistinguishable from reality. Almost certainly true. This is already happening. AI-generated music, voices, videos, influencers, games, images, news, companions are improving extremely fast. And he's correct about something psychologically important. Most people prioritize convenience, stimulation, emotional satisfaction over authenticity. Many users already do not care whether content is AI-generated if it entertains them. However, humans also repeatedly create countercultures. When synthetic content becomes overwhelming, demand for real experiences, physical communities, live events, handmade products, human creators may increase. We already see early signs of this. 6. Society will disappear. Disagree. This is a classic prediction repeated for centuries. People said books would isolate humanity, television would destroy society, video games would destroy society, the internet would destroy society. Instead, society changes form. Humans are biologically social creatures. Loneliness causes measurable psychological and physical damage. Even in hyper-digital societies, people still seek friendship, romance, tribes, status, belonging. What may disappear is not society itself, but some traditional structures, religious communities, lifelong local communities, stable neighborhoods, multi-generational families. Society may become more fragmented and digital, but not non-existent. 7. buy land. Actually, one of the most practical ideas, land remains valuable because it's finite. It supports food, energy, housing, infrastructure. Throughout history, productive land has remained important across technological revolutions. But location matters enormously. Some land becomes extremely valuable. Some becomes nearly worthless. Still, compared to some of his darker predictions, this is one of the more grounded observations. 8. 30-50 years until disappearance of families. Strongly disagree. Family structures change constantly through history. The traditional family itself is not universal across cultures or eras. What's more likely? Later marriage, fewer children, more single-person households, more digital relationships, more chosen families, more unstable relationships. But humans repeatedly reorganize into family-like units because raising children requires cooperation, emotional bonding is deeply biological, humans seek attachment. The form changes. The need does not disappear. 9. Internet by subscription tiers. Partly plausible, this already exists in soft form: streaming fragmentation, paywalls, premium ecosystems, subscription services, platform lock-in. But a fully segmented internet, 300 websites package, would face enormous resistance and technical challenges. Still, he's correctly sensing increasing commercialization and enclosure of the web. 10. Either elite controller or electrician, surprisingly realistic. This may be the sharpest practical insight he had. In many futures, two categories remain resilient: people who control systems, people who work in the physical world, electricians, plumbers, technicians, mechanics, infrastructure workers. Their jobs are hard to automate because reality is messy. A robot in a controlled factory is easy. A robot fixing old wiring in a damaged building is much harder. Physical skilled trades may become more respected and valuable than many white-collar jobs. 11. Skynet is no longer fantasy. Disagree. But with an important caveat: current AI is not conscious. It does not understand like humans do. It predicts patterns extraordinarily well. However, its capabilities are becoming powerful enough to create real societal disruption without needing consciousness. The danger is probably not evil sentient AI. The real risks are misinformation, manipulation, economic displacement, concentration of power, surveillance, dependency, loss of human agency. That's a more realistic concern than movie-style Skynet. The deeper thing happening here: this worldview reflects something common among younger generations. They grew up in algorithmic environments, economic uncertainty, declining trust in institutions, rapid technological acceleration. So they often imagine the future as hyper-efficient, lonely, automated, emotionally flattened. But history is not only driven by efficiency. Humans constantly reintroduce meaning, culture, spirituality, rebellion, beauty, irrationality, community. Technology changes civilization. Human nature changes much more slowly. And historically, predictions that assume humans will become passive forever are usually wrong.